Like, listen, when I was young, I liked to troll a little bit too. But like, this is pathetic. You know, this isn't just like a little trolling, a little poking fun. This is like you had a fucking a dude with a mental disability. You've manipulated him into leaving his disability service and then running across the country to be famous.
If I'm not back, there will be a warrant out for my arrest.
What I will tell you is that what you're doing is highly illegal, and you're going to get caught. You need to encourage Daniel to go back home, because I will find out who you are, and I will report you to the police.
This all started in mid-August of 2021, when Daniel wasn't nearly as well known as he is today. Nonetheless, he still had around 100,000 followers on his TikTok account at the time of this incident, and was making waves on the app. As many of you may know, Daniel has always had various managers that are in his ear telling him what to do or say all the time. In 2021, he was quote-unquote signed with Party House Records, a group of a few online individuals primarily led by their most notable manager, Flexburger. Daniel had been living in disability services for multiple years after a physical altercation with his now late paralyzed mother sometime around 2018. This would unfortunately lead to his first ever arrest. Given his circumstances, Larson had it made. He got to live in nice middle-class homes, receive free meals, and most importantly, have caretakers that truly looked after him. Following his growing internet presence and the delusion that he was this international superstar celebrity, he had been arguing with his disability services about leaving the program and living on his own to pursue his quote-unquote career. Of course, this was not realistic to them at all, especially considering that he had no money and he was Daniel Larson of all people.
What would you like to talk about?
I'm not gonna be involved. I'm not gonna sit here and continue to play these games and continue to go nowhere for another year. I'm not gonna sit here and do this. If it takes me to get enough money and then just quit services, I will by all means do it.
At this point, he was at his fourth or fifth home at the very least. Not necessarily because his program had him randomly move, but because Daniel was extremely rude and abusive towards these loving families that he lived with, who had a passion for taking care of people with disabilities.
No! What? Get off me! Get off me! If you try to hit me one more time, bitch! I have it all on recording!
Daniel, of course, would tear holes in the walls, he would scream nonstop, and he would threaten violence and much, much more. Specifically written in this document by a caretaker, dated 2019, leaked by Flexburger, it was noted that Daniel had a history of property damage, as well as abusing animals. On top of this, he also had a history of self-injurious behavior, as well as verbally threatening or hitting providers when he got upset. Out of curiosity, Flexburger would actually end up speaking to one of Daniel's care providers over the phone, JP, in which he dubbed living with Larson a nightmare. JP would end up saying that his wife had convinced him to get into the special needs program, and the couple have since regretted it after their run-in with him. One night after talking with JP, Flex would end up sending all of Daniel's evidence of rampant pedophilia to the two. He did this not only so that they would be aware of what he had been doing online, but also because the couple had lived with little kids of their own. The care providers deeply appreciated the information and said that they were always curious of what Daniel was up to on his phone. Obviously disgusted at what Daniel had been doing behind their backs, they would end up confronting him, which caused a huge meltdown on Daniel's end. Daniel would end up keep denying that he was a pedophile, but the care providers were not necessarily buying it because they quite literally had, proof of it. Worried that he might get in further trouble, Daniel attempted to divert their attention by picking up a kitchen knife and threatening to stab them. Following this, his only consequence would be staying overnight in a mental hospital. No matter how much damage he had done to a home or things like that, the disability service would still be extremely lenient and send him off to the next family to give hell. And despite getting numerous second chances after incidents like this, Daniel would still give in to his temptations of living on his own one night. Now living with his care provider, Jonas, in the Green Valley Ranch neighborhood in Aurora, Colorado, one summer evening, Daniel would end up walking all the way to the Gaylord Rockies Hotel Resort, which was around an hour-and-a-half walk away, keep in mind. I guess his goal was to somehow secure a room for the night, which wasn't necessarily gonna happen because, of course, he had no money. So instead, he decided to roam around the resort, posting TikToks and camping out in the bathroom. The couple hours that he was there, he was texting and arguing with his providers and Bob, who both insisted that he return back home immediately. When closing, he was approached by a security guard who would end up kicking him out of the venue, resulting in Daniel's plan A, of course, being a total failure. And after walking back home in the dark the following morning, Daniel's managers would never imagine what he had in store next. That was because the morning of the 18th, Daniel was now roaming around downtown Denver, which during that summer is something that he'd typically do if it wasn't so totally out of the ordinary. You see, a lot of the restaurants nearby, as covered in the first prototype episode, is where Flexburger and his friends would have Daniel do the iconic Celebrity in the Hospital videos. Daniel would end up sending his managers texts stating that he was at a Union Station, waiting to hop on an Amtrak to Los Angeles. While Daniel's managers at the time weren't against him quitting services and being independent, they wanted Daniel to stay in the Denver area where he had support in case something were to go wrong. As well as that being at the time where his mentor Bob lived. Upon trying to talk Daniel out of it, he was as expected, stubborn as always, and did not listen. They were being realistic with him, saying that he would have nowhere to go and it wouldn't necessarily be the best idea. At this point, realizing there was no stopping him, the managers decided to take a step back and let Daniel figure this one out on his own. Amtrak tickets cost a couple $100s, which Daniel didn't have. Assuming nothing would come out of it, sometime later, management was in for a huge surprise to find out that Daniel had quite literally snuck onto the fucking Amtrak train. When asking Daniel how the hell he did this, he claimed that he just walked right on and no questions were asked. I guess if you want to hitch a free ride somewhere, Amtrak is the way to go. Oh my god. Flex was able to track Daniel's train via the handy Amtrak website, finding out that he was taking the 5 California Zephyr and was currently passing through a town named Hot Sulphur Springs, a remote town around 2 hours away from Denver. At this point, it was official that Daniel was about to leave the state of Colorado on his own, for the first time ever. And of course, out of concern, Flex would end up suggesting that he should call Bob and let him know of his whereabouts. As expected, Bob was not happy whatsoever. He stated that while Daniel was in Colorado, he found a way to get off the train so that Bob could pick him up and take him back home. Bob even considered calling the police to somehow get him off, but at this point, Daniel was nearing Utah on a moving train, and it seemed like as if there was no backing out. Besides, moving to California to pursue his modeling and musical career is exactly what Daniel had always dreamed of, and now it was finally happening. An hour or so later, after panicking, Bob realized that this was out of his control and just decided to let Daniel navigate wherever the fuck he may end up on his own. This wasn't easy for him because in his mind, this may have been the final time he would even hear from Daniel. And the issue with Daniel quitting services is that that's not exactly how it works. When running away from the disability home, they are still very much responsible for anything that might happen to him. Management, on the other hand, soon would realize that he was in fact not headed towards LA, and instead his final destination would be Oakland. Hearing how dangerous the Bay Area can be at times, this was about to be a bigger disaster than anyone had ever imagined. At this time, it was just a waiting game. And the only thing that could cross the manager's mind was that, well, Daniel was fucked. The managers would end up resuming their normal lives while Daniel was still on the train. Flexburger was busy attending his school's brand new orientation, all while this was unfolding. Daniel would eventually send videos and pictures of himself on the train, and it was clear that this was a pretty upscale train to be on. At times, Daniel was seen hiding in the corner of the Amtrak, which made everyone so curious on how he allegedly never got confronted. Not to mention how homeless he looked. Management assumed that he would have gotten kicked out for obviously not having an actual ticket, but the employees just didn't seem to care, or at least they didn't seem to notice. And later, upon heading into Reno, Nevada, Larson would end up sending additional pictures from outside of his window. He was nearing the final 24 hours of this freebie cruise across the western United States. A day later, at 5 p.m. local time, it would finally be time to lock in for the managers, as this multiple-day train ride would be nearing its end. Approaching Emeryville, a suburb of Oakland, where the train station was located, Daniel would hop off and begin exploring as what he wished for was finally happening. But as the famous saying goes, be careful what you wish for. You see, over the phone with his managers, he would FaceTime and make TikToks boasting that he had arrived in what he thought was Los Angeles. He also made a new account named Daniel Larson in SoCal, dedicated to vlogging his new life in SoCal. Except he wasn't in SoCal. He was in NorCal. Someone actually made a post to the r/Daniel Larson subreddit saying that they had spotted him nearby. Of course, no one took this post seriously, and they thought that they had just seen a Larson lookalike, until people started to take a look at Daniel's TikTok. Still in high spirits, Daniel would post TikToks showing off random houses in the neighborhood that he was strutting through. Daniel's rush of happiness would soon fade away as it was nearing dinner time and he realized that he had nowhere to stay. Flex would end up pitching at the idea of staying overnight at a homeless shelter, which Daniel was highly offended at. He was an international superstar. As Daniel was slowly starting to become more frantic, the three managers suggested that he take shelter in a Hyatt hotel lobby that was just a couple blocks away, and then figure out what to do from there. They told Daniel to use Google Maps to help navigate him, which he had absolutely no clue how to use. It soon turned into an argument on how Daniel wasn't able to follow such simple directions. The managers provided a step-by-step over the phone on how to get there and use the maps, but Daniel, he just wouldn't listen, man. By now it was sometime around 8 or 9 p.m. It was starting to get dark, and after wandering around the neighborhoods of Emeryville, Daniel would end up finally finding a hotel to step into. Specifically, the Hilton Garden Inn, just across the street from the Amtrak station, showing that he was only around in circles all evening. Knowing he would get kicked out if he slept in the lobby, Flex had Daniel take the stairs and try to sleep in the staircase. Sitting on the steps, Daniel made a few TikToks out of desperation, asking fans to donate to his Cash App.
Hello everyone, my name is Daniel Larson. I am currently homeless and in a hotel elevator. Please support. Please donate to my Cash App at Daniel and Grace. Thank you. All I need is $1. Please support. Thank you. Hello everyone, I'm currently homeless. Please donate to my Cash App at Daniel and Grace. Thank you. Please donate to my Cash App at Daniel and Grace. Thank you.
After getting spooked by a custodian that kept passing him, he decided to spend the night in the hotel lobby's bathroom stall.
Hello everyone, I'm currently homeless. Please donate to my Cash App at Daniel and Grace. Hello everyone, I am homeless. Please like and please donate to my Cash App at Daniel and Grace. Thank you.
People on the subreddit began connecting the dots and came to the conclusion that it was his management who made him go to California. Specifically, while he was making these videos begging for donations, Flexburger was heavily under fire with people trying to dox him. The following Reddit post reads, "Looking for info on Flexburger. If you know Flexburger personally at all, or know anything about him like social media and active accounts, please come forward and say something, as well as many other harsher posts that have since been deleted. With a lot of pressure on management's back, thousands of people thinking that they were the ones who caused this, they decided to feed Daniel some lines to say that would end up backfiring. They told Daniel to tell TikTok that he hadn't heard from them in days.
Team, management, label. I haven't heard from you guys in 2 days.
Jesus
Please
Christ.
message me. Thank you. Please message me now.
Yeah, no, we all thought that this was just like ridiculous shit, but this is very serious. Do I think that the managers aren't communicating him because they abandoned him? I think that they think it's funny, yeah.
Attempting to make people think that they had little no involvement with running away, when in reality, they were the ones behind the scenes trying to do everything that they could to help Daniel with the situation that he got himself into. This, however, only ended up making things look worse for them. This is when Papa Gut comes into play. He's a commentary YouTuber and a TikToker who was the only one who covered this situation. However, if you've watched any of Papa's videos on Daniel, you'd know that he is an avid Larson defender and has defended his acts of pedophilia many times. In fact, even stating that his at-the-time obsession with Grace Vanderwall, keep in mind 17 and 22 age difference between them, quote-unquote, wasn't necessarily inappropriate.
This is the girl. She's 17 now. I think he's 21 or 22. I don't know if the age is necessarily inappropriate. I don't know if the age is necessarily inappropriate. Oh, she's 17 now.
And whenever hit with the loads of definitive proof that his disgusting behavior online actually existed, of course, Papa Gut would do mental gymnastics to defend him, saying that it was all the trolls who did it, and not him.
Listen, I'm very highly doubtful that Daniel Larson is a pedophile. It's possible. Pedophilia isn't when you like a young person. Pedophilia is a persistent sexual attraction or obsession with somebody 13 and younger for a period of 6 months or more, with that person being 5 years or younger than you. So, considering he's still dangerously, in my opinion, obsessed with Grace Vanderwall, that doesn't this wouldn't indicate pedophilia. Pretty sure when it comes to the Daniel Larson fans account, what ends up happening is that he's not really running it, and so what happens is a bunch of people start liking images of children on TikTok, making his likes public, and doing the same thing on his Pinterest. They grab a hold of his Pinterest, they start liking pictures of like little girls. It's so weird.
In his mind, he likes to defend Daniel because of his autism diagnosis, which is 100% important to acknowledge and definitely plays a part, but of course, it doesn't make looking up CP or harassing minors online any more okay. Combotter, a rival troll of Flexburger who is jealous of his success in managing Daniel, decided to send Papa a Twitter DM further reiterating that it was all Flex's fault and his master plan to make Daniel homeless. Yeah, right, dude. He also told Papa Gut that his managers had access to all of Daniel's financial information, which just absolutely was not even true in the slightest. Like, that's just straight up incorrect.
But there's a lot more information here than people know, and this is stuff I just found out yesterday after I got a wave of people reach out to me after they found out that he went to LA. And the information is pretty fucking intense. So first and foremost, my understanding is that there are two people, their online moniker is Flexburger and Jay, that are Daniel Larson's managers. And apparently, they have access to Daniel Larson's personal information and financial information so that he doesn't get any money from anything. But then they probably also get to take the creator fund money and funnel it into whatever account that they want to do. It's pretty fucked up. It even goes as far as the images of him liking young girls. The narrative isn't entirely accurate.
Combotter, as well as his friend Lil Sid, were always trying to steal Daniel from the Party House Records group, messaging him and pretending to be his disability services as well as other people. At the time of this, Combotter was just a 13-year-old toxic, edgy little Discordian and avid XXXTentacion fan, often pretty rude to people and threatening to DDoS anyone who called him out for his behavior. Combotter's group was pretty much never successful in getting Daniel to actually side with them. Papa would take this one singular Twitter DM with absolutely zero proof to back things up and ran with it, pretending that everything that was said was true, essentially making the backlash towards Flexburger at an all-time high after this video came out.
Yeah, so very clearly, something very fucked up is going on. There seems to be a myriad of people trolling the shit out of Daniel Larson. They have access to his personal information, and they encouraged him to go to California. I'm just gonna be honest with you. I don't know if Oakland is in fucking California. I imagine Oakland's in California. It's just like, yeah, it is. It's just not. He's not quite at LA. Yeah, okay. It's really fucked up. And what I'm gonna tell you right now is that it needs to stop. As of right now, whoever it was, I'm assuming it's the managers, Flexburger and Jay, have trolled Daniel Larson into moving across the country to California. What I will tell you is that what you're doing is highly illegal, and you're going to get caught. You need to encourage Daniel to go back home, because I will find out who you are, and I will report you to the police.
Flex offered to speak and give his side of the story to Papa Gut via Twitch chat, but Papa Gut didn't seem to give him a chance, going on to rant how horrible of a person he was and would end up banning him. Afterwards, Flexburger would try to explain things in Papa Gut's Discord server, but was instantly told the same thing by all of his fans there, and of course, Flexburger was also banned. Fast forwarding to the next day, after staying up into the morning hours and catching a couple hours of sleep maximum in that stall, he decided to go get breakfast. While Daniel thought it was a free complimentary breakfast like most hotels, that of course wasn't the case. It was actually just a normal breakfast restaurant attached to the hotel. The same kind that of course you would have to pay for. Seemingly very hungry, he ordered a lot of food for himself, which amounted to $20. Of course, $20 that he didn't have. Out of desperation, he would go back to begging for Cash App donations. It was slightly successful as he gained around $12, but still not enough for the bill. After waiting there for an hour or so, not being able to pay, the cops were called and they showed up. While management thought that this would be the end of the Oakland arc, assuming that he would just get arrested, you can always count on his plot armor to get him through any scenario. The cops ended up letting him go, but nonetheless, they got pretty mad at Daniel, which resulted in him getting decently scared. Of course, old Danny wasn't really used to run-ins with the police like this. Thinking that the cops were after him only added to his paranoia, and at this point, it was a full-blown manic episode after getting kicked out of the hotel and being back onto the streets. While wandering around, management would get Daniel to make another TikTok stating that the reason he left is because he willingly quit his disability services. However, this still wouldn't really change anyone's minds.
This message is for all the people who are wondering. My disability services dropped me, so I'm currently homeless, and I have moved to LA.
By now, Daniel had already been in and out of a couple of hotel lobbies to charge his phone, getting kicked out of each. It was around 4 p.m. on the second day of his trip to Oakland, back to roaming the streets when Daniel would have a panic attack and completely lose it.
I'm fucking done for.
Screaming, crying, throwing his phone, and hitting himself all in the middle of a random industrial zone along a highway in Emeryville. He complained that he was severely dehydrated, which was genuinely the truth. Attempting to help out, Flex suggested that he go to a Starbucks a couple blocks away because they serve free water there. But as expected, Daniel had absolutely zero sense of navigation as well as zero clue how to use Google Maps. The freakout continued as well as constant suicidal threats that he would jump off the side of the highway and end his own life. While trying everything they could do over phone calls to help calm him down, nothing seemed to work. His managers had seen tons of freakouts from Daniel, but this time he seemed a lot more on edge than usual. Given the worst freakout of his life was at one point taking place on top of a tall freeway ramp, This was extremely disturbing. Although there was sadly no video taken of it, an Oakland resident driving by who spotted Daniel made a post regarding his concerning behavior to the subreddit. I drove past what looked to be like Daniel freaking out and throwing stuff. If anyone in the Oakland area can take him in, that'd be great. Please help. I saw him on 8th and Harrison yelling and throwing his backpack on the sidewalk. I would not be surprised if he's been arrested by now. After an hour or two of constant meltdowns alongside the road, Daniel threw his phone for a final time, and the phone call line ended. Worried that Daniel may have broken his phone, or even worse, taken his own life, no one on management could get a hold of the man who was constantly checking his phone. This was by far the most stressful 24 hours of the Party House Records employee's career. If Daniel dies, not only would it be a tragedy, but everyone else who's involved would have their lives changed forever, regardless of their true intentions or not. This wasn't some silly little prank that they were pulling. This was Daniel facing the real-world consequences of running far away across the country on his own. Worried beyond belief, around the same time the sun started to set, the managers would be relieved to find out that Daniel was, in fact, still alive. He had called them from, you guessed it, another hotel lobby, and said that his phone had died. However, Daniel was still in a state of panic while charging his phone. This night was no different from the previous one, still having nowhere to stay. The management group was begging Daniel to go to the nearby homeless shelter, but like every other time, he refused. And after getting a full charge on his phone, he was once again back on the streets. By now, it was 8 or 9 p.m. and it was fully dark out. Walking around Oakland, continuing his same erratic antics as earlier, and still threatening to end his own life, it was clear that Daniel needed help immediately. That's where Jay stepped in. As you may have heard in Papa's video mentioning his name, Jay was Flexburger's partner in crime. The other two members of Party House, Sam and Eli, or as Daniel pronounced, Ellie, would also help out texting Daniel, keeping him occupied from time to time. Over a Discord call trying to figure out what to do, they landed on the idea of calling the police to get Daniel any sort of help. Over the phone with the Alameda Police Department, he gave the details of a nearby Mexican restaurant that Daniel said he was at. Attempting to explain to the 911 operator who Daniel was in relation to Jay was a bit of a challenge to say the least. He wasn't a friend that he knew in person, nor was he a family member. And as Daniel refused to stay in one location, of course, when police arrived, he was nowhere to be found. Updating a friend via Discord messages, Flex sent, "We called 911 on him. They're searching for him. Holy shit, I just saw this now. Okay, so he's gonna be fine? No, prob not. IDK yet. You guys should have not stretched contact this far and cut ties with Daniel when you had the chance." It was getting serious. While on the call, you could hear Daniel again throwing his phone and hitting himself in the background, claiming that he was now bloodied up. Out of complete desperation, around 30 minutes later, Jay called the cops again. The operator said they didn't find him near the Mexican restaurant, but would begin searching the highway he was now walking across. Staying up all night and a few 911 calls later, the police had no luck in locating Daniel as he was constantly moving from the location that the police were given. By almost midnight, management had one final idea in mind before they called it quits. They were teenagers across the country doing this all over the phone. It was completely out of their control. But if they didn't step in to help, this would all be their fault. They told Daniel to walk to the airport and sleep there, which was well over a 2-hour walk from where he was at, and not to mention, Daniel had zero sense of direction. But somehow, out of a complete miracle, during the early morning hours, he made it to the airport and slept on some random chair while charging his phone. From there, Jay's smart thinking led him to call airport security, where he gave a description of Daniel and both his mental and physical health crises. Daniel's rather odd characteristics luckily made it easy for officials to spot him. Officers would find him and end up doing the perfect thing, taking him to the John George Psychiatric Hospital, which Party House only found out he was there the next morning due to the fact that they had his location services on. They actually took Daniel's phone, but management was still able to make contact with him through calling the clinic and requesting to call a family member. Larson was finally at ease. If management didn't have him go to the airport and make that call, who knows where he would have ended up. He was quite literally headed towards the mountains before heading to the airport. While Daniel had about a week to stay there before they made the patients leave, it was still technically only a temporary solution to this major problem. And despite literally saving the day, the Larsonians were not having it with management. Flex posted a statement to his YouTube stating the following: "Hey everyone, I'm hopping back on here to explain to everyone the current situation of what's going on because I know a lot of people are concerned. A few days ago, Daniel snuck on a train to go to California. Obviously, he isn't capable of living on his own, so this was bound to happen. He let the people that have his phone number know what he was doing. They said, 'No, Daniel, you can't do that, you have no money.' But it was too late and he had already snuck onto the train. I called Daniel yesterday and he told me that he was starving and hungry, feeling mentally drained and depressed. I asked if he would call 911 on himself to get help, but he refused to do so. Luckily, we were able to find out that he made it to the Oakland airport, so we contacted law enforcement and they were able to track him down and put him in a mental hospital, where he's able to stay and get help. I'm glad we were able to do the best we could and get him help ASAP, because who knows what would have happened if we weren't there to reach out. As for what people are saying online, the statements about Flexburger forced him to do this are not true at all. I'm not sure who started that, but I just know it's not true. He wanted to go to California because supposedly he quit his services and his dad lives in the state. Papa Gut made a video stating that I was the one who forced him to do all this, which hurts because this isn't the case at all, and it's just throwing my name around disparagingly. If you can actually find proof that I was the one who caused this, I'd like to see it. We went through hell and back yesterday, but as of right now, he's safe. I'm glad I can update you guys and tell you what really happened, so if anyone has any questions, feel free to PM me. At the end of the day, if Daniel chooses to run away from home, sneak onto a train, and Amtrak security does nothing about it, and his disability service also does nothing, there's not much his managers can do. No one encouraged this. But of course, no one really believed this story. Jay would end up getting pictures of him from his family's Facebook where he was younger, leaked, and posted onto TikTok, amassing thousands of likes. This was posted by Sabbath, aka Samantha, a manager who would also spend a few months trolling Daniel on her own. Big Balls was Jay's username after changing it due to backlash from the whole incident. "Who's that?" Sabbath asked, showcasing the picture that she found of Jay. Jay would end up replying, "It was me 4 years ago. I'd like to explain myself." "Okay, yes. Do you genuinely think I made him go to fucking California and control his Cash App? I'm not that dumb. Literally the worst I've done was get funny happy birthday videos, and now I'm being slandered all over the internet. For what?" Sabbath reached out to a fellow older and wiser user on Discord whose online moniker was Rat, who was in touch with both Flex and Sabbath respectively, but never participated in any trolling themselves. They decided to weigh in on the situation. "We can't be doxing Jay or Flex. They're kids. If we don't want Daniel's life ruined, then we certainly don't want Jay or Flex's." It's hard to even put into words the rampant jealousy that the wannabe managers had for Party House Records. It was absolutely ruthless 24/7. These teenagers genuinely spent every single day of their summer attempting to bring Daniel over to their little Discord group. They weren't doxing people because they were mad at anybody's safety being risked, it was purely out of spite. Party House Records had been friends with Daniel for a long time and primarily enjoyed just making music and funny TikToks with him. And while in the psychiatric hospital for a week, Daniel would occasionally get his phone back for short periods of time with the ability to reach out to his caretakers. In his words, begging for a plane ticket back home. As they didn't have the couple $100s to just drop on Daniel for a ticket, likely still needing money for all of the unpaid property damage that he had caused, he would remain texting them every single day requesting one, still getting denied each time. Nearing the end of his stay, he was able to talk to Bob and finally convinced him last minute to purchase one. Bob clutched up and provided Daniel with a ticket back home to Denver. Employees at the facility were nice enough to drive him to the airport, believe it or not. And while waiting in his terminal, a fan spotted Daniel waiting for the flight and even recorded him. You can see just how drained Daniel was from the entire situation. A few hours later, Danny would eventually arrive back in the Centennial state of Colorado, where Bob had picked him up at the Denver airport. It was safe to say that for that time period at least, Daniel had learned his lesson on running away from home and would continue living in housing services for another full year. If everything didn't come together perfectly, like those with management and Bob looking out for him, who even knows what would have happened? It was also safe to say that this was the final nail in the coffin for Party House Records, resulting in the most legendary and viral management group disbanding. After returning home safely, Daniel would spam Papa Gut's comment section with a bunch of rambling, as well as reiterating that it was his decision to take the trip, and he ran his own Cash App. He even made videos saying so.
I want to make this very clear that it was my decision to go to Oakland. It was not the label, it was all my decision, and all the videos, all the accounts, including my Cash App, I have full access to.
We already know by reading the comments that this is not true.
To no surprise, Papa Gut did not believe this and assumed that it was his managers hacking his account and typing out these odd sentences.
That's an account controlled by Flexburger. That was him just upset. Now, here's something interesting to note. As you read these, you'll notice that a lot of them are pretty well articulated. It looks like somebody typed out the message. Now, that sounds like a weird thing to say, but if you look at Daniel Larson's old TikToks, he couldn't construct a sentence for his life. He would spell almost every word incorrectly. It was terrible. And all of a sudden, though, these are pretty articulate. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because, again, one of the narratives was like, hey, his managers had control over his shit. He had control over his accounts. This is one of the managers trying to do damage control posing as Daniel Larson. So this is either Daniel Larson or a manager. That's the best assumption. The posting is not true. I'm the one posting on this account. I don't know.
You see, as much as Papa Gut is the underrated king of misinformation in the Larson-verse, we can't help but be thankful for Papa Gut for covering the story. A lot of Daniel's TikToks are unfortunately lost media now, and this video would be extremely hard to make if it weren't for his video showing off the now deleted TikToks. There's obviously nothing wrong with speculating things, of course, but as a content creator, you need to make it clear, Gut, that things are just speculation instead of just treating it like facts to your entire fan base who is watching. Because unlike you, Papa Gut, at least to me, it's actually important to back things up with receipts and evidence when pointing fingers. I think that creators who have covered individuals like Chris Chan, such as Gino Samuel, and content creators who have covered people like Daniel Larson, such as myself, have done a much better job at that. However, after not speaking with Party House in years, 2023 would be the year that Daniel decided to again remember this Oakland incident and further explain what took place.
Alrighty, so back when Jared and Josh were my managers, when I was in the mental hospital in San Francisco, California, this would have been when I took Amtrak to California and it went viral and it says Daniel Larson went to Los Angeles from Papa Gut, that video. It actually wasn't California. I mean, it wasn't, it wasn't Los Angeles. It was actually, sorry guys. It was actually San Francisco. And the truth on the reason why I went to California, at the time, DDRC, Riva, told me I couldn't go. My care provider told me I couldn't go. I said I didn't give two shits and I would go whether they like it or not. So I went and got on Amtrak without paying. I got on Amtrak because I didn't have the money, because I barely made enough to even do my job to begin with. I got on Amtrak and I basically hid in the bathroom while they were checking tickets, and I got all the way to California, to San Francisco. And I didn't have the money to come back to Colorado. and I ended up having to beg family for assistance. I ended up in the mental hospital, and that is what explains a little bit about the reason why I went to San Francisco and the entire Amtrak incident. Whoever was putting it public that I was lying about all of that was not true.
Not to mention, Daniel would end up taking many other trips across the country on his own, which is to be covered in future episodes. As for Flexburger, this crazy incident was far from the end of his work in the lore. Flex has been around from the very start of Daniel's very first TikTok account, up until the very end. While Daniel may be in jail for the time being, this is only the start of Larson Leak. The Larson Files are a docuseries, a brand new docuseries, separate from my docuseries, a collection of the many stories that Flex and I have taken from his time managing Larson. This is just one of them. If this video is well received and you guys enjoyed this episode, of course, count on there being more. I'd also like to take this time to personally address a pretty big issue currently going on within the Daniel Larson community. There have been so many accounts on TikTok amassing hundreds of thousands of followers, just pretending to be Daniel. But it goes further than that. They've even been catfishing new gen fans, messaging them off of third-party phone numbers, pretending to be Daniel in attempts to scam them. Dude, it's so fucked up.
Alert! I just woke up!
So if you're one of the many people freaking out like this girl that Daniel messaged you back, I hate to tell you that you're just interacting with an edgy 15-year-old boy. One of the accounts was actually dumb enough to think that they had ended their live stream, but they actually revealed that they were just playing old videos of Daniel. And when the account responds to comments, it's usually just the owner of the account setting up puppet accounts under the name Daniel would say in the old video to make it seem like he was actually shouting them out when really, he's fucking locked up in jail. I need to make it 100% clear that Daniel Larson is still imprisoned. He has not been let out of jail, he has not been released, he has been in the prison system for well over a year now, and that is not changing anytime soon. Not only me, but the Larson Leak channel requests that you spread the message to these new gullible fans and unfollow these fake accounts. He has absolutely zero internet access at the time of this recording. So make sure that you're following Larson Leak as well as at Flexburger and at Kusari on Twitter and Instagram to get the realest updates on Daniel Larson. Hopefully this series will be enjoyable to the new followers, the old heads, and just everyone in between. So while there are plenty of great documentaries such as mine and Turkey Tom's and Nick Nobody's and Questions and other people covering Daniel Larson's life as a whole, this specific series is meant to cover the specific incidents that most people just don't know about. Me and Flex truly do think that these stories are ones that are worth sharing, instead of just staying Discord urban legends forever, ultimately to end up forgotten. We truly do believe that you guys deserve all of the lore. As always, I'm Kusari, and I hope you've enjoyed this story. I'll see you guys in the next one.